Hmm.
So I have quite,
Okay, go
so we have lots of updates for you, and I would like to frame this as when something changes one place, how do you respond in the other, or scale? So when funds stop coming from, the feds, what kind of action can be happening somewhere else? Because solar is unstoppable. We know it's the most equitable, it's the fair, and it's the cheapest way to make electricity, and it's the most democratic, and it is not stopping. So how do we go forward smoothly with the most people benefiting from it? So you're all part of this conversation. It's, a work in progress. So I'm Julia Herbst. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a Gulf Coast Program Associate with Solar United Neighbors. So I'm here. One of our breakout topics of the Go Solar component of our mission will be Mia. She'll take it away on that program. So I'm going to break up my updates like our mission. So we help people go solar, join together, and fight for energy rights. So we are an energy democracy organization. We're working for fair and equitable access to solar, regardless of your home ownership or your income. And we truly believe in a people-centered redo of the energy system based on rooftop solar. So the big one is the budget bill. So the budget reconciliation bill probably has the biggest impact of news to update. So what does that mean for the investment tax credit? That's the solar tax credit. So if you're a resident and you put solar on your home, you can take a 30% income tax credit. It's not a deduction or a refund if you have a tax liability. So Congress repealed the solar tax credit for residential solar projects. That's the Section 25D. I like to be clear that there's two different parts of the tax code. So for residential solar, your project construction needs to be completed and ready to be placed in service this year by December 31st, 2025. So projects after that will not be eligible for the tax credit. There'll be nothing there. So installers are scrambling, people are scrambling to get their projects in. Because of the timeline it takes to go solar, we're almost too late to get projects in if you're not having a signed contract. So we want to help you with as much information as you can. Maybe you're not in that situation, you don't have the income, the earned income for the tax liability. So we still want to help you go solar, so get in touch with us. The other part of that tax bill, investment tax credit, is for commercial solar. So this is for businesses. It's also for nonprofits that have larger buildings. So anything that isn't a residential home, it has to be your home, would fall under the commercial tax credit. That's 48E is the section. So for that, it has shortened the time of availability for that tax credit. Um, it's not too severe on that, but there has an added element um, called the foreign entities of concern as far as materials from foreign entities. So that is pretty complicated. It's restrictions on the percentage of components that are influenced with countries like China and Iran. Um, so these added restrictions actually make that tax incentive almost unusable. It's
Hmm.
largely unusable. So in general, like a church and a nonprofit will not be able to navigate that. So that would make the tax credit through direct pay for a nonprofit largely unusable unless their project is finished is begun. There's different ruling for the commercial. So if the solar project has commenced construction this year, they can get the 30% tax credit, and those those foreign entity regulations do not apply. So that's the best, projects are already underway. If they're placed in service before July 4th of 2026, they can apply. They're eligible for the 30% tax credit, but the FIOC requirements are enforced. So that makes it very difficult unless you're a large scale developer. And there's deadlines on how it has to be placed in service. So basically, The tax credit is generally going away for projects after this year. If you have any questions, if you're in the middle of a project, please just reach out to us. There's way too many details for me to go into here, but we're happy to
Yeah.
hold your hand and give you some options. Solar for All, that's a huge project. So Solar for All was a federal project through the EPA, the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund. It was funding that went to every state to increase solar accessibility for low and moderate income disadvantaged communities. It had a component of saving, of greenhouse gas offset, of jobs creation and apprenticeship. So very holistic. Solar United Neighbors was the actual applicant along with SELF and the Nature Conservancy because the state of Florida didn't apply for this. So we applied for this and we were awarded $156 million for this work. We are completely geared up. We have really done all the work to be very, very wisely good stewards of that money, and it was revoked. So the EPA rescinded the $156 million grant in obligated grant funds illegally. And so that program is not moving forward as is with that funding. The coalition is in place. We are in place. We are ready to rock and roll. We know we're going to keep helping low income people first who have the most affordability crisis. But we're just looking on how that's going to go forward. So we are committed, the coalition's committed to expanding energy, affordability, and we are exploring legal pathways. So they're looking into what kind of legal pathways we can take because this was an illegal action by the EPA. Again, reach out to us. We can put you in our Solar for All, the head of our Solar for All program, our manager, Kensley. I think I'll stop after a chunk of time for questions. So our classic, our Miami co-op. So the co-op that's still going on is our Miami-Dade. It was 2024 into 2025. That is a classic market-based co-op. It also had DOE funding to support 5 kilowatt grants for 5 kilowatt systems for certain eligible low-income homeowners. So it was a grant. We had a target through that grant to install. The grant target was 44 homes to install 5 kilowatt systems to help them reduce their energy burden. With very careful fund management, with utilizing something called SRECs or Solar Renewable Energy Credits. It's a renewable energy credit marketplace. Florida doesn't have an active marketplace, they don't have a portfolio. There are other entities in the outside market that are looking to purchase those renewable energy credits, targeting some low income projects. We were able to work with that to really increase the funds that we have available. So we could expand those grants to even more homes, and we are now funding free solar for 64 low and moderate income homeowners. So we have gone above and beyond, wise use of those funds, and we've been able to help so many more people. So those are going through installation. We're just closing the co-op. The market rates are getting, their installs done, same as our low income grants. For some people, the 5 kilowatt is, not enough, and they might be in the kind of income bracket where they could afford then to buy more to cover more of their costs. So it was a very flexible system. It was amazingly successful. Lots of details, but really great model that we hope to replicate in order to stretch the dollars even further. Switch Together is our new program. We have been very, very, very ambitious with that. I'm going to hold off on that because Mia will cover some of our success, where that stands, and what we're going to look forward to. Solar for nonprofits. So understanding that the Inflation Reduction Act had an element to it that now made that tax credit available to nonprofit tax exempt entities. So there's two. One is a mechanism that now nonprofits could get that credit, but it still lies on the underlying credit, which is the commercial tax credit. So even though they're eligible to still apply for direct pay, the projects are not eligible for that credit after this year. So it'd be extremely hard unless they are working with a third party developer to access that credit after this year. So we're following up on the few people who are ready to go and have broken ground on their project, whether they fall in this year or the July 4th. Um, the bonus adders on all the commercial credits for the disadvantaged, the low income, energy burden, and domestic contact are intact as well. But it would have to be on a project put in place this year. We have some great success stories to share on nonprofits. Solar United Neighbors helped the Florida Community of Mindfulness. It's a Buddhist mindfulness center, several buildings on their campus. The teacher's home went solar through a co-op, and then we helped them with some consulting, go solar on the rest of their buildings, so they're completely offsetting their cost. That got in just in time in December last year, and they filed for an extension on elective pay. They got their paperwork in and they got their money right away. So they received their elective pay tax credit as a nonprofit. So good success story. We know Trinity Presbyterian, which went solar long ago, but was still eligible in Clearwater, large system. They got their elective pay very, very late because they were one of the first paper applicants, literally one of the first to be, working through the IRS on this. And they got their elective pay plus interest. That's how late it came. So that was a good success story. So we want to hear about anyone else that is like that of nonprofits, whether they're faith-based or a community organization, so we can help them along or tell their story. Rural, solar for rural communities is really important just because of the constituencies that are there, the resources and vulnerability of being remote, of going through a disaster in a remote area. There's lots of resources that aren't served in these areas. And legislative, it's important to, have a good presence and support clean energy. So most of our work at Sun was through the REAP grant, the USDA Rural Energy for America program. Those grants are in two buckets. Some come from the Farm Bill. So farm bills are huge, massive, confusing bills. Um, that was a 25% grant for solar. And then the Inflation Reduction bucket was like grants for 50% of putting solar on a rural business, a farm anywhere or a rural business. Um, so those grants depend on the commercial tax credit. So that credit might not be available to them, but they can still apply for a REAP grant. Things have been frozen, funds have been frozen. We anticipate that applications are going to open back up October 1st. So we still have good guidance there. There was some legislative talk on deprioritizing ground mounts over 50 kilowatts on farmland, saying that we're ruining our farmland. This is bad for soil. Totally misinformed. We know that agrivoltaics are like double duty use. We know that shading and water evaporation and fungal and soil health is benefited by grazing or by the shade alone. We know that workers' temperatures under shade is great. So we know that solar is good for farmlands, but honestly, most businesses are not putting ground mounts on their pristine farmland. So they're on buildings or adjacent, or they're not an ag program at all. So that is not a large barrier to going solar for a grant. And we encourage everyone to get busy and apply if you're a rural business. We've been really busy and we have been asking for this resource for years, especially after last year's hurricane season. So we finally have a really good hurricane for preparedness for solar owners in Florida. So we have a great website. We have a great one-pager. So if people ask you, the main message is prepare, prepare, prepare. Check all your settings and check with your installer on your battery beforehand. But it's a really snazzy looking piece, and we're really proud of that. And because we have all these updates and we keep changing the names on our programs, we have a one-stop shopping website now that we think if you're updating a website or you're putting something in a newsletter or a utility bill and you want to turn people on to Solar United Neighbors and all that we do for solar, we just have a lower your energy bills. And we love this project because it's evergreen, it's national, it covers energy efficiency, it covers scams, it covers our help desk, and it covers all our groups. So it's a really good resource that you could have in your car. You could just have it bookmarked when you want to share someone. So you don't have to look up what our address is or, which Miami co-op or which Switch Together site. All the links are on that one page. So that's just our Go Solar part. I'm already 20 minutes into this call. Does anyone have questions on our programs before I get into our legislative policy? Nope. Okay. So fight for your energy rights. We're doing a lot with policy and advocacy. It's delegate legislative delegation time. I'm sure you want to get in front of your Florida legislators and probably talk about everything except solar. I know I do. It's many, many priority, very important things right now. But we are asking our people, our network, our volunteers, if they can. The legislative delegation meetings go by county by county. This is a chance to get in front of all your Florida state level elected officials and make a comment, generally 3 minutes. I'm sure they're going to be busy. You might be chopped down to 30 seconds, who knows? But we have a list. Thousand Friends of Florida is really the best list, but we will be sending out emails with talking points so that you can go to your legislative meeting, register for it, and speak in support of clean energy. Basically, we're talking of pushing for solar friendly legislation because of the affordability crisis. And then our other emphasis is public service reform. So it's like utility accountability and public service commission, which regulates the utilities, keeping them in check so we can keep our solar net metering programs and debunk this myth that non-solar customers are paying for solar customers, and we can just reduce monopoly utilities and all that they're trying to do with energy prices. Um, Another really great success that we want to really get out there that you guys have made happen. Florida passed a permitting bill. It's HB 683. It's about construction processes. This really streamlines permitting process for solar. So it's a shorter turnaround. It allows third-party vendors like Solar App and virtual inspections. This is really good for contractors. It's good for governments. It's good for the projects. It's like a win all around, saving money and saving time, safely permitting solar. We've already seen like Broward now is allowing virtual inspections. Palm Beach is now reduced to a 5-day turnaround on their permit time. So this is really good news. And like this is the work that Solar United Neighbors can make real difference in the process. So contractors, everyone wins. So we have, I think, 67 counties in Florida, many, many municipalities, whether your city or your county or unincorporated is doing your permitting, it's going to be really shortened in the time. Public service reform. So Florida Public Service Commission is the board is appointed by the governor. That's the regulatory body. So anytime there's a monopoly utility wants to raise their rates for electricity, any kind of changes to net metering and regulations, that goes through the Florida Public Service Commission. So we're trying to build in responsibility and accountability for utilities and have some reform of the Public Service Commission. We worked with Senator Don Gates, District 1 up in the Panhandle, introduced a great bill last session that was about utility accountability. It increased the number of the board. They had to have accounting and financial information. It was enabled them to cap the rate of return, so the profits that a monopoly would be charging. Um, and increasing the amount of review time and the amount of reporting that the utility had to do back to justify the rate increases. So it was a really, really great bill. It didn't move forward, but we're going to push for that to come up again. So that's something if you want to go to your legislative delegation, we want to thank the folks who introduced that and push to have that supported and go through this session. So we'll have talking points on that one. FPL, I don't know. Are any of you in FPL utility? I might be talking to the OUCers and the Dukes. So Florida Florida Power and Light, FPL, is the largest utility. It's an investor-owned monopoly utility. It's the largest utility in the United States, and they have filed for the largest rate increase in the United States in history. So they cover a great majority of electricity customers in the state of Florida. This is the third rate increase since 2021. So and rates were already skyrocketing. So that is, they make a rate case before the Public Service Commission. Then there's comments to a docket. It's almost like a legal hearing. It's a legal case. And then they put out a settlement. So that's where we are. The hearing was in August to review that rate increase. There was a settlement. There was also a second settlement by OPC, the Office of Public Counsel, and a couple of that was even a better representation and for residents. That was rejected. But FPL is basically claiming that they represent the interest of residential customers, which they do not. Their settlement shifts the burden from large corporations to small businesses and residents. So the rate increase is drastically towards them. Their return on it, the settlement originally was for almost $10 billion of a rate increase. So very significantly raising your rates. The settlement brought it down to just under 7 billion, so it's a little bit better, but it's the highest return on equity still. It's 11.9%. So who makes 11.9% guaranteed rate of return on anything? So yeah, they're still going to be the highest rate of return, rate on equity. Tico in Tampa is now the second rate. So we need public comments still. We still have a website, so we need public comments. The idea that FPL does not represent residents, this is an undue burden. You can send them to the Public Service Commission. And we're also looking for elected officials to sign on. We have a form letter with our coalition partners. So Collier County has already sent a letter in support of that, this is an unfair rate increase to reject the settlement. Broward has also signed on. So if you're involved with any of your elected officials on the county level or the city, you can get in touch with us and how you would make talking points to get them to sign on to this rate increase. It's really important because we know from our net metering case the role that FPL played in larger energy and costs. So it would be really great to get as many comments there as we can. And my last little acronym is DPP, which is distributed power plants. So we may see a dip in some temporarily. We know a lot of installers are going to be hurt by these ending tax credits, but we still see a really flexible, resilient energy system that's based on solar, particularly with increase in battery storage. So this is not far off, and we're going to start a campaign on education so people know what distributed power plants, or sometimes you might hear virtual power plants. It's this concept of like you can manage the energy that you're using in your home. We have all these people generating. We have little mini power plants all over. And they're making electricity that can be shared with the grid. And they could have batteries to store that when the utility grid needs more that they can't produce themselves, or they produce it at very expensive times. So there's relationships and there's credit systems that are going to be in place around the demand and the time of moving the electrons around that can be very favorable for people so they might have extra electricity stored in their battery and they may be able to get a good credit from their utility for that. So that flexibility, the software, the regulation around that, and what's the best protective practice for consumers is really our next work on the horizon. So stay tuned. We want to keep you updated. Maybe we'll do a presentation from our policy person on what that looks like, maybe, towards the end of next year or early next year on what that means and how you can get involved. I did a lot of talking. Join together. We have all kinds of events. Sunday is Sunday on September 21st. We have a big day of action. The one we're most involved in is the Orlando one. So I think there's a whole set of those events. I think there's about nine in Florida if you want to catch one of those. We have a coffee chat on Sunday. So if folks want to ask our help desk questions, they can do that. And we have Orlando's Switch Together happy hour on Wednesday, the 24th. So all you folks in Orlando, like, come on out, bring a friend. Mia will tell you what that's all celebrating. Thanks for all those chats. Questions before I hand it off? Quite a bunch. All right, Mia.
Okay, thanks, Julia. I did
Oh,
put,
Steve.
oh, go for it.
Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a couple of unrelated questions. One, why was the settlement agreement for FP&L the one that represented the residents settlement agreement? Wasn't that the second one? Why was that rejected?
It did not include FBL. It was I don't know who was party to that. It was OPC and two other parties. And because it didn't have FPL in it as a major constituent, it was rejected.
Uh, so our utility, electric and gas utility director said that OUC has switched to mandatory uh, time of use pricing. And I'm just wondering, did you have to do any kind of a campaign down there to educate solar customers on whether that's going to benefit them or not?
I think Mia can talk about it. So we even just had a webinar. So I'll try to get you the recording of that. Mia, do you want to respond?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say we Heaven, the Florida director for Sun, she just did a really great webinar a few weeks ago because OUC territory is where we're running one of our Switch Together campaigns. So if you want to check that out, that'll give you like all the information about how you're affected as a solar owner. But they did, as part of what passed through OUC, there was a grandfathering period, but that period has passed. So now if you're going solar, you're not getting the full NEM rate that you would be getting if you had gone solar before.
Thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So, hi everybody. My name is Mia. I'm the Florida Program Associate, and the main program that I run at Solar United Neighbors is called Switch Together. It was previously called Solar Switch, so some people know it as either or both. But I'm going to share a few slides to just talk about the programs that we've run the past year at Sun, and kind of looking into the future. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yeah, okay, great. So. So what is Switch Together? So a lot of people are familiar with Sun's co-op model, which is a group purchasing program that we have run since Sun started in Florida for anyone who's looking to go solar. We're still doing a group purchasing program, but now it's called Switch Together. It's a little bit different than the co-ops, and I'll go into some of the differences on a later slide. But for anyone who's interested in going solar, this is a great way because as a group purchase program, you're getting a discounted rate. um, we also have lots of education through this program. We have vetted installers that we work with, and I'll talk about that process too. But you know that you're getting the best rate that you can, as well as a great product. And especially with that tax credit going away, even though that 30% is no longer available, with these programs, you can typically save around 20 to 25%. So you're still getting a significant savings off what you would pay for your system. We have run this program in several other states, and I'll talk about some of the Florida stats tonight, but this has been a very successful program, really because of our partnerships with cities and counties as well as other nonprofits. So, looking at just some differences with the co-ops and Switch Together, what was kind of happening with the co-ops at Sun was that we were seeing less and less people signing on to the co-ops, as well as things like less media attention, less people kind of coming into these groups. So we really wanted to see how we could bolster the amount of people we're getting signing on for our programs. And this program, Switch Together, was being run in other states. The DC, Maryland program in particular had been having really great success. So some things that are different, like I mentioned, we work with vetted installers. So with the co-ops, the members would pick the installer, but there were some issues with installers either being out of the region that the program was being run or not getting the best either price or value of the actual product. So for this program, any installer that wants to be included, they can go through a vetting process that we have. And then we actually do a reverse auction, which is how we get the price down to a competitive rate while making sure that these installers are keeping the quality. They also have to be local to the area that we're serving. So I'll go through the different program areas that we've run so far, but
Is
that's,
this?
oh, Karen, I think you're unmuted.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Um, So that's been a really big part of this program as well. And then something that's cool about the Switch Together program is that it's an automated system. So when you sign up, it's free to sign up. You just put in some information about your house size, your energy consumption, how many people live in your home. You can either estimate or get pretty specific if you're putting in your actual consumption. And you're able to get that instantaneous offer. But we are still doing the same level of education as we were with the co-ops. So this is a picture of one of our colleagues running a solar 101. We're still doing those in person as well as virtually. We've had some trouble getting people to come out to some of our in-person events this past year, but definitely have seen a lot of success doing virtual events. So that's a quick overview. Does anyone have any questions at this point about any of the differences? Okay. If you do have questions, I'll keep asking, so no worries. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, Mary, go for it.
So the instantaneous proposal, tell me more about what that means.
Yeah, so it's generated through a software, and Julia can actually speak to this because I know she did this on her roof as an example. But basically, based on what information you give the system, it'll spit out a quote, and that's using the information as well as the price. So because we're doing the reverse auction, the price is set before the campaign starts and stays the same throughout the duration of the campaign. And I know Julia has solar, and she got the exact same system size that she has on her home, so we know it's pretty good. It can get a little wonky with shading. I know Heaven tried to do it, but she has some shading and it doesn't account for that. So after you get that offer, and that part is all free, then you can choose to accept or decline the offer. Typically, we ask for a deposit of $150 to accept the offer, and that just gets you in touch with the installer. That's refunded to everybody, but that's just more of a safeguard to say that the installers won't talk to 1,000 people who are totally on board going solar. So you can still get that money refunded. It's refunded to everybody, whether you go solar or not. But then once you meet with the installer, you can decide, does the quote that I was given, does it really make sense? Are there things we need to tweak? And then there's equipment that you are given through the program. So you get like a pamphlet with the information about the installer, the equipment they're offering, the inverters. It also includes EV charging, and batteries, so you can see that as well. But you're able to customize that. So if you want a different type of panel, a more efficient panel for more expensive panel, whatever the case may be, that's up to you and the installer.
Does each installer offer the same equipment?
Yeah, so it's either the same or it's comparable, is what we say.
Okay.
Yeah. But like I said, you're able to work with them if you want to customize. And we are always available as a resource. So if you want to ask questions about the specific equipment, then you're able to do that as well. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Cool. So the biggest change in terms of marketing for this program, how we're able to get a lot more people involved is through this letter that we send out. So this is a direct mailer that Sun sends out. The cities and counties that participate with us, it's no cost to them. So we send this out, but it does have their logo on it, and that just shows the partnership between us and the city or county. And that's really important for us from a consumer protection standpoint, just so people know that this is a program that the city is working with to do education as well as to get their residents a great rate. So I just put logos on here of the different cities and counties we've done this letter with. It's been very successful for us just to get the word out to a lot more people. And especially this year with the tax credit going away, we were able, I don't think it's in this letter because this was one from Tampa from the spring, but we were able to add a line about, if you do want to go solar this year, this is your last chance to get that tax credit funding. So this has been a really important marketing tool for us. We're still doing all the other things like social media, our website, working with partners like you all to get the word out. But this has kind of been a game changer in the sense of just getting the word out to folks we haven't been able to reach in the past. So then just to go through some program numbers, I'll have, if anyone wants these numbers after, I can send them because it's a lot of numbers, but you can see the impact that we've been able to have for the different regional campaigns we've run. So our first one was in Central Florida. That started in October and then got pushed out to February because we had some hurricanes and then an election. But we were able to get over 1,400 people signed up, and we have 117 of the 118 contract signed installs done for that program. Then our Gulf Coast campaign was next. So that was the Pinellas, Tampa, Clearwater area, many of the counties on that side of the state. Just under 1,000 people signed up for that. And we have 52 of the 81 installs that are complete at this point. Our Southwest campaign was a little smaller because we only worked with 3 cities down there, but we still had almost 300 people sign up. And then we are currently running a Central Florida campaign that's slated to close today. So you can see we dipped off a little bit, but I think that because we ran both Central campaigns so close together, we just didn't have as many people. We also didn't have the same partnerships that we did for the first one. There's been some things happening at some local government levels. So we want to make sure all of our partners are feeling good and on the same page. But overall, very successful. And then I have this slide that just shows the statewide data for October 2024 to now of where we're at. So just under 3,000 people have registered for our program, which is great because those are all people getting education, whether they go solar or not. We're up to 153 installs, but definitely pushing to get a lot more done before the end of the year just because of that tax credit going away. And then we've added over 2,000 kilowatts or 2 megawatts of solar capacity to our grid this since last October. Then just want to share some stories with you all. So this is a Switch Together participant that we had. She has a older historic home in Orlando and wanted to go solar for a few years now, but was trying to go solar through the co-ops and the financing just wasn't making sense. So with the pricing that we were able to offer for this past campaign, she went solar with us, which is great. As you can see, pretty large system. And she also added a battery on there. She has an upstairs unit that she rents out to an older woman, and when they lose power, the older woman can get really nervous about losing AC. So she wanted to make sure she had that backup to keep the house cool for her tenant, which I thought was just a cool story. Then this is another install that was done in the city of Largo. Julia was there. You can see her in this picture, looking very cute. And she was able to go out with Sheridan, who's the sustainability person for the city. And they filmed a video, which I'm going to try to play, but I know I have to click a special button so you all can hear it. And I'm not sure where that button lives. Maybe it's down here.
I
Let me
think it's
try.
when you go to share screen back
Okay.
at the beginning, but try it.
Can you hear that? Could you hear that or no?
Yes.
Oh, you could? Okay, great. Let me go to.
Was I the only one hearing it?
Did other people hear it?
Maxine's shaking her head, yes.
Okay, I'm gonna play it, and if people can't hear, just let me know.
We are not stopping there. We are harnessing the power of the sun. New construction projects like Horizon West Bay and downtown Largo feature solar panels. And our partnership with Solar United Neighbors is helping residents tap into solar energy too, reducing the cost of installation and paving the way for a resilient future. And if you didn't already,
Yeah, so I can share the link later if you want to see that. But that was just a nice highlight that the city did of the work that we've been doing with them to partner on this program. Then just want to highlight some of our community engagement. So we had a Latte and Learn event in the city of St. Pete, and then a happy hour. Actually don't remember where this was. Julia, I know you were there.
I'm drawing a blank. It's
Yeah,
right off Central Ave.
yeah. Was
Three
it?
daughters, three daughters.
Yes, at $3 brewery. So just to show that, we out in the community talking to people about going solar, about their experience, answering questions, that kind of thing. Then for what's on the horizon, so we did 4 campaigns this year, which was a lot. So we have 2 potentially planned for next year, but we're just still making sure that works for all of our partners. We're hoping to launch another Gulf Coast campaign in the spring, as well as a South Florida campaign later in the spring. So I will keep you all up to date as we finalize those dates, but just wanted to put that out there. And then just want to put some pointers for how you all can help us. So one thing is talking to your local cities and counties and politicians about becoming a program partner. Like I said, there's no fee to join. It's really just helping us with the marketing, getting the word out about this program to residents. Always helping with education. So I know you all have had some of our materials for tabling events, but if you ever want to run a Solar 101 or help us with any of the events we do, like our Latte and Learn, we're always looking for volunteers and help with those. And then just telling your friends and community members about our programming. So I know Julia gave a ton of great updates. We do have a wait list that you can sign up for on our website. So if you know someone who's interested in going solar, or you're interested in going solar and want to wait until we have another Switch Together or other group program open, you can sign up for that on our website. And that is all I have. So our emails up here. So if you have questions for Julia or I after this and want to email us, you can use that flteam@solarunitedneighbors.org. And I'm happy to answer any questions now. Stop sharing this.